Okay guys, Mike from Boyer Bows here today. Talk about our next couple of build-alongs. We're going to be doing two different build-alongs here. First one being how to make the Osage snake bow. You may have seen the ultimate Osage orange snake bow that I have posted online. Well, I got another piece of the snaky stuff. Not quite as dramatic as the last one, but got some good snake in it. So we're going to hit that up a little bit. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then the one after that is going to be how to make a straight up reflex deflex bow, self bow, no backing, with a reflex deflex bend in it. Something very popular these days. Very comfortable bows to shoot. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I can't argue with their results and their performance. I just happen to like other things a little better, but hey, you know, I can't argue that they work great, they shoot great, people love them. Let's make one. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is the snake bow. I've got a couple other staves down here. I got really lucky and landed a couple of snaky staves. These are very rare things to find, this snaky wood. And you can see I've already kind of started the process here. Now, we're going to be making basically what we've been doing before, the Mulgabet style of bow, or the Lakota style of bow, whichever you want to, you know. I'll see about curves after we get going with this thing, but let me run through the dimensions with you here. Now, this bow, this particular stick has some twist in it. So what I'm going to do, I find that the twist and the straightness of this wood, it's a 72-inch stick, but I like where it lines up at 64 inches. So I already measured it out. This is the 64-inch mark here. So this is one end of the bow. I'll be cutting this end off. I might use that for handle material. The next thing is, let's talk about the handle area. For those of you who may not have joined us on our other build-alongs, I'm going to make the handle a little bit longer this time. The handle is going to be 6 inches total. From this point to this point is going to be 6 inches. So from here to here, 6 inches. Okay? Now what I did was I found the midpoint of the bow. Now the important thing about making a snake bow is you have to look at the grain the whole time. It's very important. So if this was my center point, what I did was I looked at the wood grain at that point and found that it is perpendicular. A perpendicular line would actually run like this. Okay? It doesn't automatically run like that. My bow's dimensions won't be even. I have to make it perpendicular to the grain. You can see the lines on the top of the bow. This is going to be the back of the bow, by the way, guys, if you hadn't figured that out already. But 6 inches, 3 inches on this side, so this part here, 3 inches. And then I'm going to have it from the end of the handle to what I want to be the end of the fade. This is the fade out, is going to be 2 inches. Okay? So that repeats. So 2 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches. Simple, right? Now, width. My handle is 1.5 inches wide. And my limbs are hopefully going to be 2 inches wide as consistently as I can get them. Now this is going to be a little bit more of a, I'm sort of on the Lakota kick right now, so they're going to taper a little bit. I'm okay with that, but I'm going to start as if it's a Mulgabet and make the working limbs as wide as possible. Now, the working limbs. How do I, 2 inches, it's going to be 1.5 inch handle, fading out to a 2-inch working limb. Alright? Good way to do that, especially with a snaky thing, is you get your perpendicular measurement, find the middle point, measure that, and then I made this little thing out of an old piece of belt sandpaper. what I've done is I found the center of the belt sandpaper. I made a line. Then I made these two inner lines for 1.5 inches. Two outer lines measure 2 inches. So what I do is I just put this on the perpendicular line on the middle point, and I measure bump and bump. That's 1.5 inches. Go right here, 1.5 inches. Go right here, 1.5 inches. Now my dimensions, my width of the handle are done. How do I connect the dots? What you do is you basically look at the grain of your wood. The grains have these lines running up the entire length of the bow, and they curve. It's not like they're running off the sides. Okay, this one line is going to maintain itself almost the entire length of the wood. So what I do is I pick a line, and I just follow that line to between the 2 points. Now I'm going to demonstrate that as we go down the limb. But again, see how almost pretty much perfect that is? So it's perfect it'd be a perfect rectangle if the lines were straight, but because it curves, obviously you've got 2 straight lines here connected by these 2 snaky lines. Same thing for here. Now when you go for the fade, when you're fading out from 1.5 inches to 2 inches, you don't follow the grain anymore. You just make as nice a straight line as you can between the 2-inch mark and the 1.5 inch mark at the fade. Now I said I was going to demonstrate how I did that. So let's get a couple of measurements here. I'm going to go here. Let's do this. I'm going to spin this wood around, and I'll show you how I went about getting that done. First thing I do is I'm going to measure this again just for the sake of measuring again. Well, I know that's 2 inches, and I have my center point right there. Okay, let's see if you can see this. I'm going to bend that up a little bit. All right. Now what I'm going to do is there are going to be lines in the bow, grain in the bow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to follow a line from the center point and go all the way to the end of the wood. I'm just going to, I see the line. I can't see my pencil line. Looks like we're going to do it in marker. I better get it right on the first shot. Alright, we're just going to come out here and I'm going to follow the wood. I'm not really eyeballing this, guys. I'm following a line in the wood. Now my marker is fat compared to the skinny lines, so it gives me a little bit of forgiveness, but it also means I can make a little bit of a mistake, so I have to watch what I'm doing here. So I just start making my line. Now you notice my line isn't straight. It's already following the curves of the bow, but it isn't that hard to do. I'm really just tracing an existing line in the wood. Okay, I'm not really trying to embellish anything. I'm not even looking at the sides of the wood. My eyes are going right to the line in question. Coming right down, following that grain. Following the grain all the way to the end. Now I don't know if I'm going to stay in the camera the whole way, but hopefully you guys get the idea. There. Let's look at my line. Now I didn't even look at the sides, but it looks like I pretty well bisected this piece of wood. And that's because the line I chose was in the mid area. It's just a slight snake here, barely any, as a matter of fact. But what there is, my line is following. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I already know how long my working limbs are going to be. And I know it's going to be 16 inches. That's what I decided on. It's actually not an even split this time. I'm going with a little bit of a shorter static limb this time. But here's the 16-inch mark. And the rest is going to be what it is. And I'm going to draw a line perpendicular to the grain. Well, the grain's almost straight here, but I'm going to draw a line perpendicular anyway. You can see when you're done drawing this line just how it's not perpendicular with the wood at all. So let's put the camera here. You know what, let's put the camera here. Alright, now I'll adjust this as I go. Now I take my tool, my little taping tool, or whatever you want to call it, and I'm just going to make some marks at the 2 inches. I'm going to put the center line on my center line, and my outer lines are 2 inches. So I'm going to boom, boom, 2 inches. I'm going to try to mentally put it right on perpendicular to the grain every time I put this thing down. Okay, and now I'm going to repeat that same thing I did to make this line, but I'm going to do it down here from these lines. So here I come, got my line, still on my line as best I can. Like that. This straightens out a bit here, so this is a little bit easier. There. Oops, I didn't draw my lines here. It's a bad monkey right there. Alright. So let's come out. Whoops, I didn't stay on my line. Stay on that line. And we finish. Okay, well, let's do the top line here. Get this up a little bit so I can see it. Okay, there's my working limb, guys. That's a 2-inch working limb right there. Now I need 2 inches of fade. Move the camera around. I need 2 inches of fade down here. Perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for. 2 inches of fade. That's my spot. I need another perpendicular line here. Perpendicular to the grain, not necessarily to the wood. Alright, now I only want to do 1 inch, so I don't have a tool for that. Don't have a spot for that on my little taping, my little device. So 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. I'm just going to taper this into the 1/2 inch mark. There. Taper that into the 1/2 inch mark. There. I'm going to go 1/2 inch at the top here. So 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch. I'm going to follow the grain for a bit. Follow the wood grain again for a little bit, and then I'm going to start just gradually tapering in to the tip. So I have my 1/2 inch tapered tips. Follow the wood grain, follow the wood grain, and then I'm just going to start tapering in a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until I'm at that 1/2 inch spot. And I can clean that up, obviously, when I sand. Alright, so now what we got here is the dimensions of the bow. We've got the, well, for one limb, you got the whole handle, but let's just talk about the one limb. It's a 6-inch handle, so from the midpoint, 3 inches of handle, 2 inches of fade, and I made that 16 inches here. Now, that's a personal preference. Why did I do that? I wanted the static limb to be a little shorter this time. So the total length here is just under, a hair under 27 inches. So I went 16 inches here, so this is going to be about 10 inches plus here. So I'm going to have 2 inches of fade and about 8.5 inches or so of static limb. I don't know why I'm doing that, I just kind of feel like it this time. I can't give you a reason more than that. But let's go over that again because I didn't show it to you. 1/2 point, 6-inch handle, 3 inches of handle on this end, 2 inches of fade, 16 inches of working limb, tapering down, 2 inches of taper from 2 inches to 1 inch. It tapers eventually into a 1/2 inch tip. And there you go, that's the start. Those are our dimensions. I'm going to do that to the other limb. And when you see me again, I'm going to start taking this down to the dimensions. I'm not doing the back ring first, and there's a reason for that, but I'll tell you about that when I see you guys again. I'm Mike from Boyer Bows. This is the SNAKEY Osage Build-Along. Stay tuned. We're going to have some fun with this one, guys.